3, 2.
I got everybody pregnant with Barry Katz's semen.
I'm not comfortable with the tone this is taking.
If you're undeniable, you will not be denied.
If you want to be successful in show business, you get yourself a Jew white manager like Barry Katz.
Being a manager is just turning no's into yeses.
Creating holy shit moments. Undeniable.
You're fucking firing me up, Katz.
I love this man.
Is there anything else I should know?
You're on. What? Now I'm on the air.
Barry Katz, back in the house.
Let's do this.
I remember something I did.
You still read those mind control books? I remember you used to go into his office. He'd have books behind him as he's trying to sell you on his representation about mind control on the bookshelf. It's like, this guy, he can't be serious. This has to be a sketch. It always felt like a sketch with you. It's like, this guy can't be this guy. So insane.
How Sirhan was brainwashed now. I don't even remember the books.
I even like when I was upstairs waiting for you, I was like, is this another Barry Katz mind game? And I was just like, I don't need this shit. I was on my way out. I was going down the escalator. All right, he's reached his breaking point. Now go get him. And then now he's at the right mindset, so we'll have a good part. That's the way you ran the Boston Comedy Club. He used to come down there. You had like 2 minutes of material. You put us on after Red Johnny and the Round Guy at like 1 a.m. Is there flipping on and off the lights doing It Takes Two? I think Dane Cook was the only one who survived that test. All of us walked out of there with a big knot on our eye. Buddy, you're just not ready. You're just not ready for New York yet.
There was a method to the madness of putting people on after great, hard-working and audience appealing acts.
I'm a Bobby Knight fan too. I understand. It was, and you know something? There were a lot of comedians that were terrified of that club, and they chose not to get over the fear and stay uptown. Bobby Kelly used to call them the sweater comics. They'd sit up there with their sweaters going, yeah, you know, the downtown area, you got to work a lot more blue and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're scared. No, I used to walk by the Boston Comedy Club during the day, and I would get butterflies just looking, going, oh, man, that place. It was a house of horrors. Had that awful porno red awning before the blue one, that dirty red Port Authority shithole. But I loved it, man. Some of my most favorite sets I ever had, and Talon and Will used to do the Uptown show.
Yeah, the Black Show.
Black Show, there you go, old school. Saying it the right way. We'll put the black guys on Sunday night, unless it's Chappelle. It was Chappelle, Tony Woods, and like Ian Edwards, the only black guys allowed on from Monday to Saturday, and then you stuck the rest of them. Maybe I can get you Def Jam or something like that. I don't know. What did you say your name was again? Is it Sedale or Jerome?
Old school, nice.
Old school, yep.
Oh, Jesus, the Anne Frank of comedy.
Yeah, no, I had a lot, but I did have... what
was it? Anne Frank's Comedy Addict. That's what we used to call it.
Yeah, with that fireplace. You must have seen Pete Holmes' show.
Of course, I helped them get all the stuff.
Get all the stuff. What do you mean get all the stuff? That stuff doesn't still exist, does it?
Yes, a lot of it doesn't. I sent them pictures and diagrams.
Oh, that stuff. But they rebuilt it. It's not like you kept the fireplace.
No, they rebuilt that, but the memorabilia, a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah, a lot of the headshots and stuff.
What's funny is they call afterwards, and I'm like so excited because, they're doing it as the boss, and I'm like, all right, this is great. And then they call and they say, Barry, this isn't when it was good. This is when it was really bad.
Well, then they should have had the different sign out there. They should have had the red awning.
I know.
Yeah, Pete Holmes thinks he has it bad. Once you had that giant blue sign like this, like that, those were the good years. What was that? What was his name? Louis Schaefer. Louis Schaefer, not gay. That fucking guy. He turned around. Louis Schaefer turned around the whole Greenwich comedy scene. We were in a dip, and you go on in front of like 2 people, and he started at the cellar, right? And then somehow he had a falling out over there. And then he went over.
They didn't pay him $75.
That's what it was, yeah. And they pulled up in a fucking Jim Rockford fucking Trans Am.
I picked him up in the Ferrari, thought I was gay, and I got him.
But then he went over and he packed out the Boston. And then you could actually put, comedians, we need an audience. And like he started like that whole Barker scene that goes on down there. And they did an episode of that. Oh man, that would have been great if if I could have told him, like, you gotta bring Louis Schaefer in. He's in England now. You should have brought him in for that.
Oh yeah, it was a.
He was so disarming. He was so disarming. It didn't matter who was coming down the street. Be like, black people love Louis Schaefer. You know, man, who the f*** is this crazy white dude? And then he just had that blazer and his penny loafers and those horn-rimmed glasses.
And he'd bring anybody into the club. It was amazing. Anybody would come in. I remember this one.
I still love Louis. Louis was the best. He was funny, and he would bring them all in. I remember you got him a gig on...
I got him some television gigs.
You got him on, was it Keenan or was it...
I think it was Vibe.
Vibe. I remember that, yeah.
Daniel Kellison was the executive producer.
That's right. I remember all that.
But I remember he used to bring these people in, and it didn't matter. He'd just bring people in, just bodies in. And I remember one time Dan Cook went on stage, and there was a guy in the front row holding 2 grocery bags in each arm. He's just looking up at Dane with a serious face, and Dane looks down at me and says, "You better be funny, man." And Dane looks at him and says, "Why is that?" He's like, "I got ice cream." Yeah.
What he was really mad at is he doesn't know how to say no to people in life. The guy should have said, "No, I got ice cream." He didn't know how to say it. And then I love that he gets so mad that he then heckles. Dane always did great in that club. Dane was fearless. He was fearless. He came down, and I remember Jason Steinberg saying, like, I couldn't bury him. And then I was like, I knew you guys tried to do that.
Jason Steinberg was the manager of the club back then.
Yeah, sorry. And I used to remember thinking, like, they're doing this on purpose. I mean, I can't always have to go on after Chappelle. There has to be a slot open where it's not after him, or Red Johnny and Tony Woods.
Well, you know, Chappelle would sit here and tell you
guys
that I put him on after Charlie Barnett all the time.
Oh, yeah. What, in, like, the park?
No, in the club.
I thought he played in the park.
He did, but I'd get him to come over and play the park.
All right.
For those of you who don't know Charlie was the greatest street performer of all time. He played at Washington Square Park.
How much do you owe him? He probably took money out of his hat.
Anyway, Charlie was a notorious, drug user, yet you never saw him do drugs. And he used to do shows. He never ever did laundry. He would just do shows, and then he would just give his clothes to a homeless person and then buy new clothes. And he taught Chappelle how to do the part.
Not in that order, though, right?
Not in that order, of course not. I tell you, this is crazy.
New York was a looser time back then.
I just want to share something with the audience. I am crying. I am laughing so hard. I am like,
all the way to the bank. Don't forever break your balls. I've been waiting to break your balls about this for ever.
Laughing all the way to the bank.
Don't you know what's
I
funny?
didn't do 19 straight shows at the Wilbur Theater, my friend.
Listen, I listen to your podcast. And
No,
some
you
of the,
don't.
Yeah, and some of the comics that come on here, I'm like, how are they not bringing up the fact that he still owes them money? How are they not bringing this up? How are we ignoring this whole aspect of your goddamn career? I can't wait to have Maureen listen to this thing. She's going to be dying laughing.
Maureen Taylor.
That's right. We do the Patrice O'Neill benefit.
Oh, God. And we'll talk about Patrice, too.
All right.
You do not listen to this podcast when you have time to listen.
No, I listen because you had Anthony Clark on.
Yes.
Who's one of the greatest storytellers
Amazing.
I've ever met. He's just so effortlessly funny, and he encompasses what I love the most in funny people. Is I love super smart people that are silly. That's my favorite thing. He's silly. Patrice was silly. All of the people that I really love. You know what I mean? Because they'll blow your mind with some sort of thing, like observation, but then they'll just say like the silliest shit ever, and you just feel like you're in high school again. I love it.
To give you an idea of what Bill's talking about, I was just thinking about Anthony Clark the other day because one of his lines, which, you know, technically on paper, you don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but he said, I own a Chihuahua. Chihuahua, you don't even have to take for walks. You just hold it out the window and squeeze.
Oh, the way he goes, and he goes, take it out and you squeeze.
It's just so silly, but so funny.
Yeah.
No, he came here.
He's even funnier.
Like you, he came here and he almost left. He was like something happened and.
I knew this was some Barry mind game.
No, what just happened was he just got here.
That coat doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like you sewed 12 different coats. It's a Parker. It's got shoulder pads. It's a warm-up jersey. That is the worst coat I've ever seen in my life.
As Jeffrey Ross would say, this is my Forever 41 outfit.
That piece of shit Ferrari you had, that is the exact coat you should have been wearing when you pulled up. I can't do this. I don't know what you're doing. Then you got your diesel jeans on. And these awful cowboy boots. These Rob Halford studs in them. What are you going to... You're in your 50s. You're a mess, dude. Put on a suit like a gentleman. I wouldn't even say this shit, but you're filming it. Look at me. I'm wearing like gift bag shit.
There's nothing wrong with gift bags.
Yeah, I noticed. Would you get that on a taping of Suddenly Susan?
I can't.
All right, let's get on with the questions, Barry.
Are there questions?
Dude, this is the most unartistic vibe of a room ever.
I had to.
Yeah, I mean, just
I'm sorry, it can't be the All Things Comedy podcast.
Flash his stupid logo up here on this fucking flat screen. He had the nerve to call this place his studio. It's a fucking conference room. These fucking Staples chairs with the wheels on them. This is actually going to hurt my career to be here. Oh, we were going to sign you on to do 2 lines in that fucking movie, but you did Barry Katz podcast in his studio. All right. You know what it is, Barry? I don't give a shit about your fucking questions. I just wanted to see you and break your balls. That's my favorite thing. I wish you hung out more. Those aren't even boots. Those are low top. You got the rest of the boot on layaway. Cheap
You're like a Bostonian Joan Rivers on the carpet. Just taking me down.
I'm doing Jones Act right now.
Oh my God.
Top 5 all time, by the way.
I should have worn my
Joan Rivers, top 5, top 8 all time. You got to say that.
That's your top.
Absolutely. As prolific as
Let's
George
talk about
Carlin.
your top 10. Start with number 10.
Well, it's not you, and I know you used to do stand-up. Wish I could go back in time just to heckle you. There's just too fun. There's too many. I actually think, to be honest with you, I think like the top 30 is a lock. Like you can't surpass them because they literally built the art. And what my top 30 was...
You surpassed them?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I am carrying the torch. Those guys lit it. You know what I mean? There's a difference to that. That's like, I don't know.
Do you think they knew they were lighting it until they lit it?
You sound like Jimmy the Glick right now.
Jimmy the Glick.
Did you know that you were lighting it? Why would they light it?
But then he'd be like, Ben-Hur, that's a nice name for comedy.
That is one of the funniest fucking shows and one of the greatest characters of all time. I'm waiting for them to bring it back.
Martin Short's character,
yes.
Jimmy Glick.
Oh, my wife turned me on to that show, and like, I wish I could make my wife laugh as hard as Martin Short as Jiminy Glick does. And she does a killer. My wife does a killer Jiminy Glick. I keep saying it wrong.
I didn't know she was an impressionist.
Yeah, but she's one of those persons that does it on the fly, but if you tell her to do it, she gets shy. She goes, no, I don't want to do it. I'm like, you nailed it. You got to keep doing it.
Let's hope she doesn't nail me as an impression or your house will never be the same.
That would make me love her more, as long as she was just shitting on you.
Hey, Papa, this is Barry Katz calling you back from the Carter administration.
That was your fucking 20-year running joke whenever you didn't return calls. I think you dumped me as a client like 3 days after 9/11, and that's not even a joke.
I hope you're all right. I can't work with you anymore.
What did you want to talk about? Because you knew I was going to fire you, so he sent a fucking overnight FedEx thing firing me. I remember being in my one-bedroom apartment just laughing, going like, this guy's good. No, then you called me up and said, what'd you want to talk about? Because I called you and I said, Barry, we need to talk. So you knew what the fuck that was. Right? So you don't call me back. Then they knock down the towers, and then fucking, oh no, wait. No. That wasn't it. No, I was a dick to you after 9/11. I forgot. I said, you owed me a phone call for like 6 months. You hadn't called me back.
In 6 months,
Like,
I had told
it was
you.
like 3 months. It was a long fucking. It was towards the end, Barry. The marriage had gone south. We were sleeping in separate beds. It was over, right? You were out in L.A. and you would, whatever. And I remember you. What did you say? You finally got back to me after like 9/11. You sent me this stupid heartfelt text going, just making sure you and your family are okay, blah blah. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, and I still don't have any f***ing gigs. And then I think that was the last time we sort of talked. It was my angry face.
Is that over now?
Huh? Yeah, it is actually.
Okay.
I'm just breaking balls. That's all.
What's the difference between breaking balls and anger?
I'll actually carry something out of this and think about you the second I walk out that door.
Let's not have that happen. Oh my God.
All right. So, what did you want to ask me?
I have so many things to ask you. I'm never going to get through it. You're going to just twist me into a balloon animal, and it's all going to be over. But I want to stay on the comics thing, okay? Because you said that.
Where does your comedy come from?
That's not where it's going.
Okay.
So you mentioned there's 30 guys who are there, and what I'm suggesting is that they didn't know they were there until people started telling them they were there.
Right.
There's a point where somebody started telling Rickles you're there. After Hackett signed
like
a deal
Rickles
for
is not a guy you can-
$175,000 a week in Vegas, they told him he was there.
Yeah, and those
50s.
guys, you can't surpass those guys. Those guys are part of the whole history. They built the whole thing. Those guys used to go on they used to go on after strippers and stuff. There were like no clubs. I mean, I guess it was supper clubs and then.
Well, it's kind of like going on after Red Johnny and the Round Guy, right?
Yeah, but every night. There was times I went on after people that were decent. So, I mean, but I also think that there's a tendency to put people who are doing it now in this ridiculously high level. Like because like people make lists and then they forget about people and then they also have to make it current so people give a shit to actually look at the list. And then like there's just weird things happen where, there was a list I got put on and somehow Eddie Murphy was like 3 spots behind me. And then I just started laughing, just going like, these lists are ridiculous. I mean, Eddie's like one of the most talented people of the last 50 fucking years.
Is it a stand-up list or is it an overall list?
I don't remember. It was something somebody tweeted.
Because if it's stand-up, if you look at Eddie's first special, I believe, he opens up with Norton taking Ralph up the ass. That's his opening bid. Okay?
Dude, he was 21 years old. He was 21 years old, and it's also like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go down this.
I'm just saying that maybe
like,
that's why they went down that rabbit hole, because maybe that writer likes comedy that's not blue and likes comedy with more.
Oh yeah, or
message.
they're younger and they can't put it in. It's like listening to young people now going, "Oh, I think the Beatles are overrated," and it's just like, yeah, you would think that. You would, and I'm not saying you're gonna think that because of when you were born. And then like all their stuff has been stolen and taken and mulched up and everything. So by the time you hear it's lost its mind-blowing thing. You'd have to somehow forget everything that came after, listen to the shit that came before, and then see the leap. And, that's a hard thing for anybody to do.
I always think that as a comic, when you're...
I hate the tone of this podcast. I don't know what happened. It was so much fun
Sorry,
like 5 minutes
sorry,
ago.
I ruined everything.
I just feel like the tone is just...
No, but
You're really going to go in deep now, aren't you? This is going to be like the Charlie Rose of like stand-up. Like, I feel like the mic stand is your lightsaber in the...
I promise you, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you to be... No, I feel like when a comic, somebody steals their material, I feel that that's the first sign that they know, I'm on to something here. I'm doing it. People are actually stealing from me.
Oh, when somebody steals your material.
Yes. That's when I feel a comic for the first time knows that they're on the right track.
That was not my experience.
When did you know you were on the right track, though?
Well, the first time somebody stole a joke from me, I was like standing there. Somebody's like, dude, that's your joke. And then I felt like I was in the schoolyard, like, oh, I got to fight this guy. Like, I didn't know. It was actually like a scary experience. Like, how do I confront this guy?
Okay, so the first time you go on stage is that competition, and it's the preliminaries at Emerson?
Yeah, so whoever wins the Emerson night then goes up against the funniest guy from Boston College, BU, and I think Northeastern. I think that's what it was in Emerson or whatever.
Now, and did any of the people who went on at the Emerson show, because a lot of people came out of there, did stand-up already on your night or the other night that became
There was
stand-up?
the woman who won, and I don't remember her name. She did, and I used to run into her for a while. I don't know what happened. I mean, God knows at this point she could literally be, running a network for all I know. I just kind of lost touch with her, and I kind of forgot her name. Apologies. But she fucking killed. She went up and crushed. Like, it was almost like she was already doing it or something. But she was great, and I only did 5 minutes. I bailed after like 3.5. I mean, 5 minutes seems like forever for me, anyways. The first time I did it, so. And then
That's the amazing thing about stand-up is that most people who go on the first time don't do well. And can you think of anything in your life? I don't know of anything in my life.
I actually think sometimes there's a lot of people that do well just out of ignorance, and then when they go back up and try to recreate what they already did, then it starts. They're thinking about the last show rather than that show. The first time you go up, you can't help but be in it because you have no other frame of reference. You're just up there like, what the f***? So you're totally present. And that, I feel like that can help certain people that are performers. But then when you go back the second and third time, that's when it starts to be like, all right, I'm not trying to discourage anybody, by the way.
No, but it's like, how many professions do you know of where you go on and you get the shit kicked out of you and you go back home and you're like, yeah, I want to do it again?
Kind of all of them.
Oh, I mean, you see these like...
Somebody's getting the shit kicked out of them to put a roof on a house, and those guys kept coming back. I was the only guy that fucking quit. Those guys did that.
Yeah, but they're putting the roof on the house and they're actually doing it the right way. And wood is being nailed into other wood.
Oh.
And the foundation is put together. The house isn't falling down every time they...
I like how you got away from the roof. You only had so many roof things, and then you they put in the nail and then the foundation. You went to the bottom side of the house.
I'm not as prolific as you are. But you know what I mean?
Can I finally take this thing out?
Yeah,
so I
you can
just
do whatever
fucking
you
hold it
want,
on?
man. Get rid of whatever you want.
Okay.
No, it
Big budget show, everybody. Little ass mic stand.
Those came with the chairs and the tables here.
Oh, of course they did. I'm sure there's somebody else that this is actually their office, and you just figured out when they leave early on what's today, Monday?
I paid $75 for this conference.
All right.
So you go on, and so when do you know I'm not going to do anything else? I'm not going back to the warehouse. I'm not going back to construction.
It wasn't until I moved. Well, I mean, I knew that I wanted to be a comedian. Like that night, I was like, F this, I'm doing this. And this guy, Billy Martin, who's now a big guy at Bill Maher's show.
He's a big writer. He's the executive.
I still want to say
producer
politically incorrect. I'm so old. Real
He
time.
was from Pittsburgh.
Yep. And I remember asking him, I said, how do I do this again? He goes, well, you have to call up Rita Choice. And somewhere in my parents' house, I like to think I still have it. I had it for the longest time. And it was his handwriting with the phone number that you called up for the open mic.
Which open mic?
The Nick's Comedy Stop one. So that's what I did. I called up the next day and I got a date. And then I also called up Stitches.
Now, I want to paint the picture to the audience because I don't think they know these clubs. So Nick's Comedy Stop was owned by some guys who were very, very powerful kind of guys. They reminded me of the kind of guys who literally would kill you if you looked at them the wrong way.
Yeah, I never got to that level to meet those guys.
But they were just, they were great business people. And this club, Nick's Comedy Stop, if you were to work in a club like this, you would think this is not comedy. Because it was this huge room that held 400 people, yet in the very back of the room, there was a bar.
Yeah.
And it was very noisy, and oftentimes televisions would be on with Celtics or Bruins games with the sound off,
Yeah.
and you'd be on stage doing your set, and people would just scream like a hockey goal had been scored, and you're thinking, God, I didn't know that joke was that funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was. And
Stitches was, when Stitches came around, they built a room It was, they built it so that comedy was the focus and there was no bar in the room. Initially, there was a bar around the corner, and then they built a bar in it in the back. So they still had the bar in the room. Most Boston clubs, all of them had the bar inside the room, which is unheard of in a comedy club.
Yeah, no, but I mean, those were the first ones I ever did. So I have fond memories of all of those places, and that's how I learned how to basically do stand-up. It's how I learned how to bomb gracefully. I started to learn how to do that. I learned that really when I was in New York, when I was going on late. But as far as like quitting my day job, that didn't happen until when I moved to New York. I was thinking, like, I saved up all this money. I still lived at home. I was a total fucking loser. I was 27 years old. I was still driving the same car I drove in high school. I just kept putting a new engine in it anytime it died because I didn't want to have any debt, and because I knew that it was going to be hard. And I paid off all my student loans. I paid off all my credit cards. I had no debt, and I had this nest egg of money. And I moved down to New York City. Got a walk-through bedroom apartment.
That's called a railroad apartment. I remember when you came down. This is another part of our relationship that you may or may not remember that formed.
I remember you had the romantic novel haircut back then. You should have been on a white horse. You had this blonde fucking mane with the ponytail. You look like Triple H. Before Triple H. Triple H stole your look.
But this is what I remember, something about our relationship that you don't understand and you don't know. And this happens all the time. Maybe it doesn't happen to you. But there was a time where you really weren't talking to me. I'd go in the clubs and say hello to you, and you were cold to me.
Yeah, you owed me $75. You were dead to me. That's why.
No, I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, he's going to tell me what's in my head. Okay.
No, I'm going to tell you what you told me. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right?
How you remember it.
Yeah, how I remember it, just like how you remember it.
Feels like the first 48 right now. All right, let's see if you can pin this on me.
No, it's on me. So I came up to you, it'd been like 5 years, and I just came up to you. It was in Los Angeles, and I said, do you mind if, can I talk to you for a second?
My girlfriend sits down where you're sitting.
There is no hope of getting through anything. And you said, no problem, Barry. I'll talk to you. You go outside. I went outside. I said, listen, I just have to ask you, it's been like 5 years, and I just feel like, I don't know, there's just something, and I just want to know what it is. Just tell me what it is, please, and because I want to create a better relationship with you.
Oh, this is making me squirm now. I can't imagine what I did back then.
He said, Barry, I came up from Boston. All the money I had to try to get an apartment in Boston. I'm so excited, and I come to your club for the first time living in Boston. And you and Chappelle and Jay Moore and a bunch of the comedians were around in front of the club. You had telling a story, and I stepped into the circle like comics do. And you stopped your conversation and you looked at me and you said, hey, Bill, what are you doing here? What, do you come to help somebody move?
Oh, no, that's not where you said it. You said it in your office. You said that in your office. That's why I didn't get the story. You said that in your office.
Which office?
The 1776
oh, yeah,
Broadway.
In New York.
You said that there.
In front of people.
Yeah, would you come down here to help somebody move? All right, I got to tell the story then. So the story was, there was a friend of mine. I'm not going to say the friend. All right? He had gone down to New York, and he was homesick. And unbeknownst to me, he goes, he calls me, hey, you want to do some spots down in the city? And I was just like, oh, boy, do I, right? And they go, all right, I'll take the train down. He goes, no, bring your truck. I had that fucking piece of shit truck. So I go, all right. So I bring my truck down there. I can't remember, I think he got me one spot, and then at the end of the weekend, he goes, yeah, I'm just going to bring some stuff. I'm going to go home for the weekend. I'm just going to bring some stuff. And he was living in your apartment, and he took all his shit back and didn't tell you he was moving back, and then moved back home is what happened. So then when you guys were like, how did our star client move back home? The way the story was told is that I drove all the way down there like a moving company to
move them back. So when you made that joke, I felt that you didn't respect me as a comedian. So I was like, F this guy. I was also very angry back then. You probably maybe being played, and you also owed me $75. So there was layers to this.
Got it. Well, I'm glad that you told me, because I didn't remember saying that, and it was 5 years. And
I feel like we should be on an Andy Cohen show right now. We're like a couple of housewives trying to work out our shit. Now, Barry, when you called Bill a whore.
Oh.
God damn, you just rattled my brain. I haven't thought about that probably since we had that conversation.
Well, that's my new title, Brain Rattler. That's good.
They call him the Brain Rattler. Here comes the river.
So how did your dad and mom feel about you doing stand-up when, you weren't really making money? You were living at home. You were 27. Like, were they pissed off at you?
No, I mean, I also had a day job and all of that shit. But, no. My parents let everyone in the family just find their way. They just, they didn't force their vocation. Well, I do this and, nepotism, you're going to do that. None of us... we all do different things and we all followed passions. So none of us really work for a living, which is really cool. And we're obviously working hard, but I had jobs where I had to work hard and I hated it. And those are the ones where you're just staring at the clock and all of that shit. But when I was, they were always, I remember telling my dad that I was going to be a comedian. And he just sort of smiled and nodded like it all made sense. It just made sense at that point because, I was always getting in trouble for goofing off. I sucked in school. I was going to summer school. And it just, I think, he had an ability. My dad's very artistic too, so he had an ability to see, he wasn't one of those people going oh Christ, well, how the hell are you gonna feed yourself? How are you gonna start a family? He didn't have any of that. He just thought it was cool. And they were very tolerant. Back when I was playing drums and my other brother was playing guitar and bass, we used to play in his basement. He used to give us shit because we wouldn't wear earplugs, which I wish I did because I got one ear that's fucked up now. But he would tolerate, us trying new things. And he said one time, he goes, one of the hardest things about a parent is you have to let your kids fail sometimes. And you have to just sit there and because they're trying to figure out, and you got to let them kind of go out, and fall down, bump their head or whatever. So, but I think both my parents just thought it was cool, and I think they also thought that it made sense for whatever reason. So I didn't have to go through that whole torture that so many comics go through, that their parents even when they got their own TV show and their parents will be like, well, when are you going to get a real job? Or some of those stories you hear about Johnny Carson's mother, some of the stuff that has come out, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but some of the stories that people have told, where that person you just cannot please. I don't have that, thank God.
You know how there's certain comedians who say that, they became comedians because they didn't get what they wanted at home, so they wanted that attention.
Oh, the sad clown thing? Yeah.
So I just thought
you talk to your puppet late at night. Does your puppet become a person? You know what show you produced that was great was that one you did with Jay Moore when he played that guy Peter Dragon.
Action.
I loved that show. That show was ahead of time. I remember thinking you were full of shit. I was going, hey, Jay's got a new show coming out. I remember you going, it's going to change television. It's going to change television. I was just like, he's just saying that shit. And then I saw it. It was great. He was cursing. They were bleeping out the words. That was a great show. That should have been given more of an opportunity. Yeah,
the first thing
was
I
that
ever
on
executive
Fox?
produced.
Was that on Fox?
Yeah, it was on Fox.
Yeah, Fox had a couple like that. There was the other one, Get a Life. Speaking of paper boys,
Yeah.
I was what's it from Letterman? Something about Mary with the sty in his eye.
Chris Elliott.
Chris Elliott. Oh my God.
Great. He lived at home and had a paper route and lived in the attic. Get a Life. I love that show. I don't know. I'm a jinx.
You're a jinx.
If I like the show, so many shows. There was a show on Showtime.
You like Breaking Bad. You weren't a jinx there.
No, every once in a while you get lucky. Once in a while.
Lucky henchman.
There was a show called Brotherhood. The Brotherhood, I think it was. It was on Showtime.
Yep.
Kevin Chapman was in that. He was a Boston
Of
comic,
course.
played Freddie Court. Chappie. I love that show. And I'm still, like, it still bugs me. Every once in a while I think about that. And they built it to such a crescendo in the second season. It was based off the Bolger brothers. And they set it down in Providence, just so they wouldn't have any problem. And evidently, that's what I heard anyways. And they just built it right to the point where the political guy needed the gangster. And he was keeping him at bay for 2 seasons. And the way they spun it, oh man. The acting on it was incredible. The mother was just so evil and manipulative. I loved that show. And didn't get another season.
So as a stand-up, you're doing it. There has to be a point where you come home one night and you're like, I've done it. I'm never doing anything else. I am making my living from this. I see where I need to go, and I'm going there, and nothing's going to stop me.
I felt that the second I grabbed the microphone. I had like an out-of-body experience. And I knew, I don't know if I knew during my first set, but I knew by the time I got up stage, I knew what I was doing. I was like, I'm doing that. And any sort of thought of like, how would I pay for stuff? How would I eat? That never entered. It never entered my mind at all, because stand-up was the culmination of everything that I loved. I loved hanging out. I loved telling stories. I loved making people laugh. And I liked attention. It was just everything. And that was the reason why I always got in trouble at school, because I was always talking. I was trying to make the class laugh. It was kind of my way of like, I don't know, it's just the way I broke the ice with people. And, it's why cigar smoking is appealing to me. It's this chill, relaxed thing, this storytelling. Like, cigar smokers are the best. They're just storytellers. They're hilarious. They're guys. And you just go in there and there's just one character after another. I think just being in Massachusetts where everyone is a character, like that's, being out here on the West Coast where it's so different. The cigar bar like reminds me, like, in Boston, you don't need to go to a cigar bar. You just walk down the street and there's just people. I don't know why. No. I hope it hasn't changed. I haven't lived there since 95, but like the really hardcore Boston guy, was just hilarious.
Now, to the bane of your existence, I talk about you a lot to a lot of people, and so many different things about your career I talk to them about when they ask me, what do I need to do to get to the next level? And you're like an example that I use all the time. But
is this the David Copperfield analogy?
Well, that's another thing. but the thing that's fascinating about your career, which I don't know if you can say about anybody else, and you may disagree with me or not.
Barry, come on, we're always on the same page.
You're the only comedian that I know who's broken into rarefied air that is the result of a bizarrely fateful thing that happened where one person in a crowd captures something extraordinary, and everything that everybody already knew about you was accentuated in the world 50 million more times than, the 200 people in the club that knew you were brilliant. Now 50 million people knew you were brilliant just because one random person in the crowd decides to record that extraordinary moment in Philadelphia in that venue, and your life changed forever that day. And that's what always blew me away about you, because you were one of the few guys that was working hard. You could see the plane taking off, you were going, but then it was like your career, in my mind, and I could be wrong, this is my opinion, your career went into like a 50th gear almost in a span of a 3-month to 6-month period after that video started taking off. And the whole world now knew how great you were, not just, 1,400, 1,500 people at a time.
It definitely helped me. But what happened, what got me finally going was I did a half hour for HBO the year before, and Jim Norton was doing Louis' show, Lucky Louie. Right? Was that was?
Yeah. The HBO show.
So I filled in for him on the Opie and Anthony show. He actually hooked me up with those guys, which a lot of guys in his position would not have done. He would have tried, most guys would be insecure and try to hold it himself. He got us all in. got all of us in. And he, you know,
I used to work with Jim when he first got that show.
yeah, so he was doing the Louis show.
Such a great guy. Such a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful guy.
One of the most well-respected comedians on the circuit. It's just, you know.
Wow.
And I
see it.
I will stand by that.
You got history. You have something you need to iron out with that guy. That was weird how you just kept going back to that.
No, because I didn't.
Great guy.
I didn't want to pass.
I used to manage him.
I didn't want to pass
One
by.
of the most respected people on the circuit. I could just tell, like, how many people do you have you have to iron out with, Barry? I mean, you should have done My Fucking Name is Earl, for real. You should do it. It's like a real show. How much more are you going to extend the olive branch to Norton? I know you guys got history. He was back with Barry Katz Management.
I love him, and he's done the podcast, and we.
A lot of people say Mother Teresa. I say Jim Norton.
I paid him his $75 when I saw him, and it's all good.
I love Jim too. I'm just breaking your balls, Barry.
No, it's okay. I got.
So anyway, so I started subbing for Jim when he was doing Lucky Louie, and then that's what happened. So what happened was right around that time, the HBO thing came out, and that was the beginning of you couldn't just have one thing. You had to have a couple of things to get you. So that was the thing that got me. I started selling tickets for the first time as a comedian. Could sell out a couple of shows on a weekend through being on the Opie and Anthony show and doing the HBO special. And then I became, and at that point I had Opie and Anthony markets, and then like San Francisco and a couple other things, but nothing in the South, nothing in the Northwest. So I would just play like these pockets around the country. And then the year later, like in 2006, that's when the Traveling Virus Tour happened. And then that thing was another thing that brought me up a little bit. And then I did the Why Do I Do This? And then I got a little bit on Breaking Bad. And my whole career has been like a slow burn. There's been never been like that one thing that got me like, you know, which is good too, because I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Like if I went from floor 2 up to the penthouse like some people have, I would not have been able to handle, I'm trying to think of somebody, like how fast Kevin went up.
Kevin Hart
and Amy Schumer, like that, like I was not built for that, you know. And thank God with my act, I prevented that from happening. There was no danger of that.
I don't think of you as a fearful guy, but that night in Philadelphia, were you scared watching everybody get eviscerated? And did you have in your mind, okay,
I mentally tapped
I got
out.
this thing that I'm going to do at the end. I'm going to take these guys down.
No, that's the myth. The myth is like, you know, he saw this happen and Bill said, "Fuck this, I'm going out there." What happened was, first of all, it was the Opie and Anthony Traveling Virus Tour, so you knew this show was coming. You just didn't know what city it was going to be. And I was uneducated to Philly at the time, believe it or not, you know. You know, when you grew up and there was, you know, sports was the last 5 minutes of the local news, like you didn't know much about other cities. So I didn't know that they had the reputation that they did for booing people. So the first guy got booed, and then all these other guys went on, and they did fine to killing. But I just sort of, you could just send, I don't know. Dude, it was so long ago. All I remember was it got to the point they booed Dom Irrera, and Dom Irrera gave him shit back. And I just remember thinking when I was backstage, because I never gave a shit about money, I just remember thinking like, I don't fucking have to be here. I would much rather be, rather than in front of 10,000 people, I'd rather be in front of 40 people that give a fuck for free. And then just go home and get a slice of pizza and watch the Canuck game or some shit.
But
So
the
I
irony,
tapped out.
But the irony is that audience, the audience that in unison hates, actually does care, and they're getting comedy out of hating the people.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I don't fucking need to be here. So I remember standing, and then finally it was my turn to go on. I remember standing there and I felt nothing. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anything. And I just remember thinking like, this isn't good. Because when you don't feel anything, if you're not excited, if you don't have, I had nothing. I mean, I might as well have just been waiting for a bus. And I'm hearing, they're all screaming, and I was just sitting there like, yeah, you know, I was just thinking, you know, I didn't need to be. These people don't deserve a show. They've been assholes the whole time. So
you remind me, I'm sorry I'm doing this, but what you're saying is at the Super Bowl, They showed that shot of Tom Brady after
This was
that
not
final
the Super Bowl.
after that final interception, and it's 28-3, and he's just sitting there with his Gatorade bottle, and you think to yourself, even Tom Brady has been beaten, but you weren't beaten.
That was one of the great stretches of all time. I don't even know what that
Well, you're a
is.
Boston guy. I thought I'd go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, then bring up Goodwill Hunting in Apples. So I'd like to think there was a little momentum to that story. Let me start all over again. You're like a wonderful heckler right now. It's just like trying to figure out how to tell this story. So I was just standing. I didn't feel anything. So then please welcome Bill Burr. And then I just went out there, and I was like, and I just remember the first thought I had was the bridge scene in Apocalypse Now. That's all hey, Joe, tonight you die. That's all I remember thinking, like, oh no, here we go. So then I went out there and I was like, oh shit. I tried to get all this pre-show adrenaline going that was not even, it's like, trying to get an old carbureted engine started on a cold day, and I was fucked. And I went up there and I tried to do material. And I did a joke that didn't work. Something about cell phones, and then I immediately went to this next joke, and the next joke I did, they had been playing on the radio as the promo, so they already heard it, and I sort of bailed, and I was just like, I just went, what the fuck, you're not going to laugh at that? And then they booed, and then it happened. So it was 50% my fault and 50% the city that I was in, and I had been booed before.
Where?
In Vegas. I was doing these awful shows where they had like a contortionist and somebody saying pour some sugar on me. I remember Steve Byrne was on the gig, and I remember when they announced him after he went on after somebody with like a fucking snake or something, he grabbed a microphone and ran into the crowd. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And that should have given me a hint, because he had done the gig before. Because I remember backstage just going, dude, you really got to get these guys. You got to really make sure that he had like this look at, I was almost like laughed. Going, Steve doesn't seem like Steve right now. So Steve grabbed the microphone and he ran in the crowd and got in the face of somebody and created sort of this movement that made them watch him. It was brilliant that he did it, and he was able to survive. And then Bobby went up.
Bobby
Kelly went up, and he did what he had to do. And I was standing back there like an arrogant ass going, these fucking people. It was like the Kardashian crowd, like these beautiful people. It wasn't my crowd. And I was thinking like, all right, what should I do? Should I go out there and be like, hey, Vegas, who's getting laid tonight, huh? That's all I had to do. But instead I was like, nope, I'm doing my new shit. Fuck these people. And I went out there and ate a dick, and they started booing, and I didn't know what to do. I knew I wasn't going to leave, but I sort of like, it was just weird. It was like this weird thing where you had what you wanted, but the exact opposite emotion, which I had everyone's attention, but they fucking hated me. Those are the best stories, so,
All right, last question. You answered a little bit of it. I just want to elaborate.
I have a strict no touching clause.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. So, what, nothing?
Huh?
Nothing with that?
What's Mr. Harvey?
Steve Harvey?
Oh, dude, I agree with every fucking syllable of that email. Jesus Christ. You could feel him before the show trying to get his head together to do what he's doing. Mr. Harvey, could you just sign? Hey, next week we're thinking about people who don't go on stage do not understand that people just need quiet before they go on stage. Even when you're in the makeup chair. You're not in the makeup chair. You're thinking, how am I not going to lose my show here? Do you talk to the racehorse before the race? Getting in its ear? Look at you, not with your goddamn thing.
No, I just wanted to set an alarm so you wouldn't get. So you'd leave.
No, every fucking syllable of that is true. And if you don't set up boundaries, and if you're the guy on the thing, it's never going to stop. And you're never going to have a moment to yourself, and it's going to affect the quality of the show, and the show's going to go away, and all those people who are butthurt over that email, this guy's saving your job in a roundabout way. Yeah, all of that stuff. Like, I always hear these stories. You're like, oh, you know who I drove the other day? He didn't say one word. Yeah, on the way to Giant Stadium, you asshole. This guy's got to go out and entertain 80,000 people. And you're going to sit there, what was it like when you recorded? Like he's doing his own podcast in a car.
That's why the old limos were great, with the thing that went up that you couldn't see the person.
Yeah, you can't take it personally. Like, some people like chatter. It warms them up and they riff with the people, and some people are built that way, but other people just want to be left alone. Like me before a show, I don't like seeing the crowd. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I hate when I walk into a venue before the show and I see somebody from the crowd. Hey Bill, have a good show. Like, oh hey, love your work. Like I hate that moment because I feel like I still have to prove to you that this ticket's going to be worth the money, and you're already giving me the dessert before I demonstrate. Like that's that mentality. It's just like, don't say nice shit to me until I actually. Then afterwards, as long as you're not a fucking psycho, I'll hang out and have a drink with you. But like you'll have, because what you do is so stressful and weird and could get booed by 10,000 people. Everybody has their own little routine. I remember hearing this routine of this one rock star. He had a hoodie. He always wore a hoodie, and his thing was, if the hoodie's up, don't fucking talk to me. If it's down, talk to me. And I'm like, that's brilliant, because then you don't have to be rude. It doesn't feel like this rude thing like, hey, he's not talking to me. It's just like, no, he is in a space right now. He just needs to fucking get into that zone. And people who don't do it don't respect it. Like, oh man, you fucking zone. It's like, yes. So they should respect that email, and they should track down the passive-aggressive person who didn't have the courage to step to Steve Harvey and bring it up and find out why they did that,
All right, this is it. This is the last thing. I know you
said that
touched
like
on
9
it a
times.
little bit. What advice do you have for the young person and somewhere around the world is working in a warehouse, has $1 and a dream, living in their parents' house when they're 27, but knows that they want to do something and get to the next level like you have in comedy?
I've gotten so lucky. I can't say that anything that I've done worked. It's just like, I would just say, like I said, they call your name, have the balls to go up there and know that, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. You can take all these lumps, and it's how, this is cliche, but it's really like, once you learn to pick yourself up from the mat, once you learn to not only get up from the mat, but come back even harder, that's when you can keep your momentum going, and that's when stuff starts bouncing off of you, and you start getting first downs, and you start moving down the field. And then also, you have to have a realistic critique of where you're at and what you're good at and what you're not good at. And one of the reasons why I've been able to do well is I've always known what I sucked at. I was on that construction site for 2 hours, and I was like, this is not a God-given gift. This is always going to be work. I suck at this. I tried sales. I was like, I suck at this. I tried so much shit, I knew I sucked at it. And comedy, it was easy. As hard as it was easy to go back and get the shit kicked out of me, because I really felt that I was where I was supposed to be. So then other than that, surround yourself with some positive people. Don't be a dick. And, try to apologize when you're wrong. I don't know. Other than that, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I've learned in 25 years. Is that it, Barry?
I'm sorry, Bill.
What's that?
Well, you said I should apologize.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You're so creepy. Like, it didn't even feel like it really just made me feel like something in here, but not good.
Well, thanks, Bill.
Someday I want you to take the mask off, and I want to know who you really are. You wax museum psycho. I love you to death, Barry.
I really appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
To the 200th episode.
I had a great time. Let's hope in the next 200 you can get some mic stands that actually go up to where your mouth is. All right?
All right.
I apologize to you, sir, earlier when I was all cranky thinking that he stood me up. I could have been nicer on the escalator. You can say it. I was all ready to leave. Now, the old me would have left.
Really?
The old me, I would have stormed out of here. And I would have taken 3 years off of my life, not knowing that you were sitting here in somebody else's conference room.
I didn't even get to ask you about Patrice O'Neill anyway.
Well, we'll do it again.
All right, this has been another episode of Industry Standard with me, Barry Katz, the 200th. If you like the show, tell all your friends. And if you don't like the show, tell all your friends.